Before we dive into one of the most pivotal and tragic stories in modern African history, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You won't want to miss our deep dives into this series of leaders. They silenced untold and untold stories today. We were talking about a man whose life was a blazing comet across the sky of African independence. Patrice Lumumba, the first ever Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo. His story is one of fierce determination, betrayal, and a legacy that continues to inspire millions. So, who was Patrice Lumumba? Born in 1925 in the rural village of Analua, he was a member of the Tetela ethnic group. Unlike many of his peers, he received a primary and secondary education, first in a Catholic mission school and later in a Protestant one. He was sharp, ambitious, and a voracious reader. He started his career as a postal clerk and later became a traveling beer salesman, which gave him a unique opportunity to travel across the vast Congo and connect with people from all walks of life. Even in his early career, Lumumba was a gifted writer and speaker. He contributed to the Congolese press, expressing his evolving ideas about Congolese identity and the need for emancipation. He wasn't initially a radical calling for immediate independence. Instead, he was an évolu, one of the educated Congolese elite who initially believed in a gradual path to self-rule in partnership with Belgium. He even met King Baudouin of Belgium during the King's tour of the Congo in 1955. But the colonial reality was harsh. The Belgian system was built on exploitation and racial segregation. The vast mineral wealth of the Congo rubber, copper, diamonds, and later uranium-enriched Belgium, while the Congolese people saw little benefit. This system of injustice began to radicalize Lumumba. The turning point came in the late 1950s. In 1958, he attended the All-African People's Conference in Accra, Ghana, hosted by Kwame Nkrumah. There, he met other leading Pan-Africanist thinkers and freedom fighters. This experience solidified his vision, a strong, unified, and truly independent Congo, free from the shackles of colonialism and tribal division. He returned home a changed man, convinced that the time for gradualism was over. Upon his return, he co-founded the Mouvement National, or MNC. The MNC was unique because it was one of the few political parties that was not based on a specific ethnic or regional identity. Lumumba's message was simple and powerful: unity. He argued that tribal divisions were a tool used by the colonizers to keep the Congolese people weak and divided. His charisma and powerful oratory skills quickly made him the most prominent nationalist leader in the country. His activism led to his arrest by Belgian authorities in late 1959. But the tide of history was turning. Pro-independence riots had erupted, and Belgium, facing immense pressure both internally and internationally, realized it could no longer hold on to its massive colony. They agreed to a round-table conference in Brussels in early 1962 negotiate the terms of independence. The Congolese delegates refused to participate without Lumumba, so the Belgians were forced to release him from prison and fly him straight to Brussels. At the conference, Lumumba's uncompromising stance for immediate and total independence won the day. Elections were held in May 1960, and Lumumba's MNC party won a plurality of the seats. Despite Belgian attempts to sideline him, he cobbled together a coalition government and, at just 34 years old, became the first prime minister of the newly independent Democratic Republic of Congo. Independence Day was June 30th, 1960. The official ceremony was meant to be a celebration of a peaceful handover of power. The Belgian King Baudouin gave a speech that was deeply condescending, praising the genius of his ancestor King Leopold II, the man whose brutal regime was responsible for the deaths of millions of Congolese. The new Congolese president, Joseph Kasavubu, gave a polite and reserved response. Then it was Lumumba's turn. He wasn't scheduled to speak, but he walked to the podium anyway. What followed was one of the most electrifying and defiant speeches of the 20th century. He ignored his prepared text and spoke from the heart. He didn't thank the Belgians. Instead, he reminded the world of the humiliation, the forced labor, the insults, and the violence that the Congolese people had endured for 80 years. He declared, "We are no longer your monkeys." He spoke of a future built not on Belgian charity, but on Congolese strength and dignity. For the Congolese people, it was a moment of pure catharsis and pride. But for the Western powers, particularly Belgium and the United States, it was an unforgivable affront. They saw Lumumba not as a patriot, but as a dangerous radical, a potential communist who threatened their vast economic interests in the Congo's mineral resources. This speech sealed his fate. The Congo crises erupted almost immediately. Just 5 days after independence, the army, the force publique, mutinied against its Belgian officers who had remained in command. The situation spiraled into chaos. Seeing an opportunity, the mineral-rich province of Katanga, led by Moise Chaume and backed by Belgian mining corporations and mercenaries, seceded from the country. South Kasai followed soon after. Lumumba's dream of a unified Congo was collapsing. He appealed to the United Nations for help to expel the Belgian troops who had re-entered the country and to end the but the UN peacekeeping mission was hesitant to intervene forcefully. Frustrated and desperate, Lumumba made a fateful decision. He turned to the Soviet Union for logistical assistance. For Washington, this was the ultimate proof. In the midst of the Cold War, a charismatic African leader seeking Soviet aid was seen as a direct threat. CIA Director Allen Dulles cabled his station chief in Leopoldville, now Kinshasa, stating that Lumumba's removal was an urgent and prime objective. The plan to eliminate him was set in motion. This is where a key figure enters the story: Joseph Desire Mobutu. Lumumba had appointed Mobutu as the chief of staff of the new Congolese army, trusting him as a loyal ally. But Mobutu was secretly cultivating relationships with Western intelligence agencies. In September 1960, just over 2 months into Lumumba's premiership, Mobutu, with backing from the CIA, launched a coup. He neutralized both Prime Minister Lumumba and President Kasavubu, effectively seizing power. Lumumba was placed under house arrest, guarded by both UN troops and Mobutu's soldiers. For weeks, he was a prisoner in his own home. In a desperate gamble, he escaped in late November, hoping to reach his political stronghold in now Kisangani to rally his supporters. He almost made it, but he was captured by Mobutu's forces on December 1st, 1960. The images of his capture are heartbreaking. He was publicly beaten and humiliated, a symbol of a nation's broken dream. He was imprisoned, tortured, and then, in a final act of betrayal, flown to the secessionist state of Katanga into the hands of his bitter enemy, Ma Sichenbi. On January 17, 1961, Patrice Lumumba, along with 2 of his political allies, was taken to a remote location. There, they were executed by a firing squad commanded by a Belgian officer. To hide the crime, their bodies were later dismembered, dissolved in acid, and the remains scattered. The assassins wanted to erase him from history. The The world was told he had been killed by angry villagers while trying to escape. It was a lie. It would take decades for the full truth to emerge, with Belgian parliamentary inquiries and declassified documents confirming the direct involvement of Belgian officers and the complicity of the CIA and other Western governments. But they failed to erase him. In death, Patrice Lumumba became more powerful than he ever was in life. He became a martyr for the cause of African liberation and a global icon of anti-colonial struggle. His vision of a unified, sovereign Congo, free from foreign domination and internal division, continues to resonate. His name is invoked by activists and leaders across the continent and beyond who fight against neo-colonialism and for true self-determination. The tragedy is that the forces that conspired to kill him, ethnic division, foreign interference, and corruption continued to plague the Congo for decades, especially during the long and brutal dictatorship of Mobutu, who would later rename the country Zaire, and himself Mobutu Sese Seko. Patrice Lumumba's story is a stark and painful reminder of the high price of freedom and the brutal forces that have worked to undermine African independence. But it is also a story of incredible courage and unwavering conviction. He was a leader who dared to envision a different future for his people, a future of dignity and unity. And for that, his legacy will forever endure. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the life and legacy of Patrice Lumumba. If you found this story as moving and important as we do, please give this video a like and share it. And don't forget to subscribe for more essential histories. See you next time.